No, was the response, I think, to the question. Gary Neville has joined us, as you can see. We've got 3 former managers here who've been in pressurised situations of various sorts. But what did you make of that?
He was agitated, wasn't he? I mean, he's agitated walking over towards the Arsenal fans at the end, and I can see why. I know what he's saying about the first half, about how well they played. They dominated the game, but it's not line ball, where you have to basically run the ball over the 18-yard line and put your foot on it to basically score a goal. You need to put the ball in the back of the net, and he knows that better than anybody. I think Arsenal, for a couple of years, have done that really well. But the biggest inquest at Arsenal at the end of this season will be, why did we not sign a striker? Now, is that because he wasn't provided with one by the recruitment team? They haven't signed one now for 2 or 3 years. And did he not want one? Is that the answer? But they're I don't know. It's a mystery as to how they've ended up in a position whereby it's all on Kai Havertz, because he doesn't fancy Gabriel Jesus as a striker anyway. And the same stuff that we saw and seen for quite a long time now with Arsenal is that they're recycling the ball really well around the edge of the box, but they haven't got that ability to be able to cut through teams, and it's costing them.
Ultimately, Paul, is that how this season is going to be defined by Arsenal? That failure to have a striker, someone who can step in when they have suffered these injuries?
Yeah, I would have said so. I think because if you look at the games that they've, no disrespect to West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Man United, I think if they got their full team out and the 3 forwards playing in Saka, Martinelli and Havertz, I think they take 7 points at least out of them 3 games instead of 2. But I still don't think that's enough to have caught Liverpool. I think we're just covering over the cracks a little bit, if I'm being honest.
I agree.
I'm with Jamie. I don't think it's been great this season. I don't think they've been as dominant in football matches as what we've seen them in the last couple of years. I think they've fallen off a little bit, in my opinion.
But is that because he hasn't had the tools?
No, they weren't playing well with all their team at the start. There wasn't that efficiency or that calmness or that ability to kill teams off that we've seen in previous years this season. I thought they were so reliant on set pieces. That's obviously not working at the moment. I don't think that there's been a joy in Arsenal's play this season compared to the year before. And if you go back to the year before that, when they had Xhaka in midfield as well, I just don't see it. This year there's been a lot of, and even with Bukayo Saka, there were games at home when they couldn't finish teams off. They haven't been at the level they have in previous years, I don't think.
And 10 draws, is it? 10 draws, you're not winning any league title with 10 draws.
So what does that come down to, do you think, Roy? Is it the makeup of the squad? Is it the approach of a head coach who has only known progress so far in his 5 years at Arsenal?
Yeah, a bit of everything, and I'm sure there would have been frustration from the last few years that they didn't get over the line or they didn't get themselves a cup or whatever it might be. And then you've the injuries, and then we saw the manager there. He certainly looks frustrated. He, when obviously the title was gone a few weeks ago, but he would still want his club and his team to show great mentality. To say, I still want to come here and try and keep some sort of pressure on Liverpool. But over the last 2 or 3 games, that's gone now. And we mentioned it earlier. I think the biggest concern now is what's happening with the teams behind him. They've lost that momentum for the season. I think what we saw here today was nowhere near good enough. And they've set really high standards the last few years. So on one hand, you want to give them credit, but we always say the next step is the hardest step in terms of trying to win a league title.
Well, do you think it's a matter of time, Gary, before they make that next step?
Well, maybe, but why was he so agitated when Patrick asked him that question about the striker? Normally when you see a manager act like that and he sort of walked off he seemed to walk off. That's what I looked like.
Maybe that's a frustration that it didn't happen. Maybe he really wanted it to happen.
But that's my point. Usually if you see a manager sort of not losing, it's going a step too far, but walk off at an interview when he's being asked a question, you normally think that something's sort of getting to them, it's coming on top a little bit. Is he sick of being asked that question? Does he think that's too simple an answer that he hasn't got a striker? But the fact of the matter is it'll still continue to be asked. The reason it'll continue to be asked is because there are hundreds of thousands of Arsenal fans who for many months and years now have said we need a striker. It's not just, us in this studio or Patrick Davison who's asking him a question. Arsenal fans, and you can't kid football fans, they know the team as well as anybody. They need a striker. They needed a top-class striker in that changing room. And I do think a top-class striker would have made a big difference. I agree with what they've said here, that actually the step up in performance. But Liverpool can not play well. And because of their options up front, can win games. Yesterday, they can be 1-0 down against Southampton. You were watching the game, Merce, on Soccer Saturday, and I was listening to you. And they can just, through moments of Diaz, Nunez, others, win games. They've got options off the bench. Mikel Arteta has not got those options.
Would you sit there with confidence, Jamie, and say that next season, if they sign a striker, that Arsenal will be challenging for the title?
Yeah, they will. Yeah, absolutely. I'm confident in that. I think, but they've got to start an elite striker. And the problem is, how hard are they to find? It's incredibly difficult. No one really wants to sell their best player. They always get spoken about with Alexander Isak, who is obviously elite, because obviously you see the goals he's got and how he plays, but it's not going to be that easy. Do you think that Arsenal are going to be the only players in town, even if he were to leave Newcastle? Barcelona are talking about wanting him as well. There's been a load of clubs that will want him, but they've got to find someone. Is it Sesko as well? They've been mentioned in trying to get, but it's just a case of, I think the guy said it earlier on, a striker, because even though Kai Havertz has done well, they signed him as a number 8. They signed him as an extra midfield player. Then you ask him to go and be a killer in the box, and yes, he had some good moments, but is he an out-and-out striker that's going to get you 20 goals? Is he going to get you Salah's numbers? That's what they've got to try to find. And if they do, with their defensive stability, they've got a really good goalkeeper that we all like, and midfield, they will certainly go close next season.
Roy, you said the next step is the hardest. Do you have confidence that they will make this step under Mikel Arteta?
No.
Why not?
Why would I? What makes you think they can do it? Or the manager can do it? They've got close over the last few years, and City will be strong next year. Listen, I'm sure Liverpool will be strong next year. Where's the evidence to think they can do it? Would it be get another striker in? Yeah, obviously that would help. Have they got the right mentality? Has this manager, we just seen there at the interview, getting frustrated, which is fine, because you see a different side to managers, not even with Pep, but all of a sudden when they're losing matches or they're not getting the rewards they think they deserve, they get all agitated and frustrated, and that's fine. I've been there and done it. But what is the evidence to think that if they get somebody to get 20 goals, that we'll sit there and go, well, that'll be the difference? I don't think it necessarily will be.
I suppose the evidence might be that they got 89 points last season, 85 the season before. It looks like they will fall short of this season because of the injuries they had.
Yeah, so
if they get those players back and they can add to that group.
Yeah, of course, all ifs and ands. But again, do you think City and Liverpool are just going to stand still? They're going to keep looking to improve. Listen, Pep will bounce back. I think Liverpool will be stronger next year. These teams aren't going anywhere, and they've had a bit of a dip this year, particularly Man City. We don't know what Chelsea are. We don't know one or two other teams improving. But what's the evidence again from the Arteta or this group of players that they've got that mentality to challenge? We talk about it's not like challenging for a title, but to me, in my mentality, it's about winning titles, not challenging.
It feels a bit like whack-a-mole for them, really, doesn't it? Whereby they're just always sort of like, the first season they didn't win, it was because they didn't have Saliba and they needed someone to back him up, so then they signed defenders. Last season it was because, so they go and sign players that, you know what I mean? It feels like they're always behind. This season it's because they haven't got strikers or attacking players, so they're going to go and say, but the other teams are still improving, as Roy says. The other teams are still getting better. So I think that it's not just about a striker, it's probably about a couple of forwards. You know, Liverpool have forwards that can play across.
Options, yeah.
Forward options that can play across that front line that will score goals and chip in. Gakpo chips in. You know, Diaz chips in. Nunez chips in. Jota chips in. They all chip in with goals. Salah does more than chip in. You know what I mean? But a couple of forwards to add to that group and keep the defence and midfield as it is, they have got a chance. But are they going to get those players? And they always feels like they're one step behind.
Paul, just have the final say on this in terms of what Roy's been talking about, that perhaps Roy has a lack of conviction about them taking that next step with Mikel Arteta. What's your take on that?
I think they'll be in the title race next season. I think they've got to buy in the summer. They have to buy, and they will be in it if they keep if they don't get injured. If injuries, I said it before, if Van Dijk was out for 3 months and Salah were out for 3 months, Liverpool wouldn't be top of the league and lost one game. You know, they make differences. You know, you're never going to get a squad like Man City assembled over the last 3, 4, 5 years. That's never going to happen again. So you'll have to rely on players coming into the team, whoever they may be. Liverpool at the moment have got their team, and as Gary said, them forwards, that's why they're going to win the league. They've all got at least 10 goals and Salah's got 20 or 30 in him. They've got to rely on players to come into the team that are not going to be better than what they've got. And at the moment, the front three, we've got a young kid who's going to be a superstar. We've got Trossard, who really was brought in as an understudy, and a centre midfield player playing up front.
What about
would
Sterling,
never happen in any other country.
What about Sterling? I mean, Mikel wanted him in, and then he's left him on the bench for 90 minutes at Old Trafford, and they need a goal.
I thought today would have been all right. I thought it was a tight game. He gets the ball and he can dribble. Do you know what I mean? He might get a nick of free kick. And, you know, if I was Sterling now, you'd be thinking, will I be playing for Arsenal ever again?
Yeah, but the question is, you were saying, will they be in the? I think they will be in the race.
Oh, they'll be in the title race.
Yeah, but it's no good being in the race if you're not going to win it.
Well, you've got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, but listen, we're talking about Arsenal here. Listen,
well, I haven't won the league for over 20 years.
No, that's why I'm saying. So why are we sitting here thinking, yeah, we can say that for the next 10 years they'll be in the race, but it's no good being third, fourth. Who do you think is actually going to go and win it?
Roy,
That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about small clubs here.
But I thought
Forest might finish ahead of them.
They demonstrated, I think, last season and the season before that they've got hallmarks of a team, I think, that can go on to win the title. A little bit like the progression that Klopp made at Liverpool. And I'm disappointed in them this season that they've fallen short. When City aren't there, and I thought Arsenal would be there. And to be fair, Liverpool have had a fantastic season, but they've not delivered this season. This is the biggest problem, I think, this season for Mikel Arteta. Losing the title last season and the season before, I don't think was that much of a problem for him.
Do you think this one will hurt even more?
But
this one will hurt more. This one will hurt more.
They were in a great position.
What Man City
they were in a great position 3 years ago. So they've been in good positions where they've had people scoring goals. And was it 2 or 3 years ago, people said, oh, they're out of the FA Cup, it's great. I'm glad they won easily in Europe during the week, because if they had a tough game coming up, they'd be saying, oh, well, we're getting ready for next week. They had no excuses coming to United today. Yeah. Everything was there for Arsenal to go, listen, you've had a good win during the week. You don't have to worry about next week. You can come and put a show on. And obviously United were on about like the intensity. I think there was one booking in the game. You got to turn up and flex your muscle and say, we're Arsenal, we're doing well, we're making progress, we've had a tough season, but we still do a good job on you. Didn't even do a job on United today, and United were there for the taking. United were just sitting and hoping for the best. They couldn't even do that. So why do we think next year this Arsenal team might get a striker in and they're going to win the league title? Well, I won't be putting any bets on Arsenal next year, let me tell you that. Not what I saw today.
Well, Manchester United have actually gone up a place. They're up to 14th now. We will...
With the right weight of pass into the right player to after execute. And it's true that we have a lot of situations in the second half. I think we have 3 or 4 big chances, but very frustrated as well how we conceded certain transition moments is not good enough.
So Declan Rice stood here and said something very similar, particularly the last 10 minutes. Yeah, he was talking about just doing things that you never do. What happened there?
Taking goal kicks there. We were catching the ball. We want to run, give the ball away. Then there's another transition, another wave, which against them is just a shot in your foot, because they have so much quality that they're going to pick the right player, and normally the game should end up with a goal of Bruno.
So does that frustrate you most, actually, just that, whether it's the last part of the game? It's like, I don't recognise my team here.
It happens, so it's part of us, so we have to get better at that.
What did you make of the free kick? You already mentioned the conceding of the free kick. It comes from like a hopeful long ball. Does that annoy you more than like the strike itself?
Yeah, the way we give the ball away, yes, and then you give the foul because you are rushing, then he still needs to do that, but and we discussed that. Don't give them the option, because it's very likely that this is going to happen.
Was Bruno's job made easier by a wall that was far away from the ball?
I don't know that.
No, are you not mindful of that at all? Because it's been raised by United players, it was raised by Declan. So it's 11.2 yards.
Then he's been very smart. I'm sorry. He's been smart and he took advantage of that. This is football.
No, okay, I mean, I raised it because I thought you might expect the referee to deal with it.
Well, yeah, I do.
And it makes the free kick's job easier.
He's smarter than the ref. That's okay. They allowed him to do it.
Okay, so how difficult was it second half then against that low block? Do you think frustration plays a part in the mistakes that start people?
Because you are so good in the first half, you do so many good things and you go 1-0 down. And mentally, it's painful, but we tried, we went for it, we scored the goal, we were really trying, but as well, we opened the gate to lose the game, and the game was completely closed. There was no chance we could lose the game, and we opened it up ourselves.
Do you excuse the players a little bit at least when you look at the concentration of injuries you've got in that forward line? Obviously Martinelli comes on, but no Saka, no Havertz, no Jesus.
I mean, I will defend my players all the time because the will to do what they want is no question about that. But in those moments, we have to be better as a team. That's it.
And do you regret not signing a striker in January? Perhaps that extra player? No, it's not about that?
No, it's not about that.
Okay, Mikel, one more. Yeah. I have to ask you about the title race because it's 15 points now. Is it too much?
The other side of the story is Liverpool have still only lost 1 league game. And as I say, when you look at Liverpool's remaining fixtures, now 16 points is the figure that they need. Of course, they might need less. That's assuming that Arsenal win every game. But 16 points from their remaining 9 is Liverpool's conundrum. And what a situation for Arne Slot's team to be. And that, of course, means everyone was talking about Arsenal going to Anfield weeks ago when the gap was just 4 points in May, that there's a huge likelihood by the time they go to Anfield, they'll be making a guard of honour for Liverpool as league champions.
But you know what, Steve, I think this Liverpool team is a great example of what Arsenal need to do. It's really simple. You know, they got different options, attackers at the top of the pitch, and they have experience in key positions. I think Arsenal still need a couple of experienced players. You look at Van Dijk, you look at Salah, you look at Alisson. Arsenal are really good, but they're still a lot younger, I think. And I think Liverpool now, they've showed that experience. They've been the best team by far. But because of the options that they have, they can rotate at the top of the pitch, and they have a guy like Van Dijk. The spine of the team is experienced in winning titles, and I think that makes a huge difference. Arsenal are this close, but I do think maybe like a Lautaro Martinez, who's won in Italy, they can help add an extra layer, like Declan's added a layer to this team. Can you get somebody in that's got experience of winning and getting over the line right at the end? Because Liverpool are going to win the league, but I think Liverpool are a good blueprint for what Arsenal need in terms of improving, getting one or two, like Alisson, like Van Dijk, to take the next step.
I think that what's important as well with Arsenal is that player. What we do want to attract, that we've got players who are top players who are going to be coming into the last years of their contract as well, and then they're going to probably want to see what's happening this summer. And again, I go back to Andrea Berta in respect of his appointment and how important it is for him to get the kind of player in that's going to still inspire Saliba and Rice and Gabby Magalhaes and Saka. Those kind of players who are getting to a stage in their contracts where they're like, are we going to win something? Are the people upstairs going to back the manager for us to get to where we need to go? Because are we going to attract that player who wants to come and play with the calibre of those players who are being linked to teams like Real Madrid? So this has got to happen in the summer. It's got to happen really quickly in respects of us making that kind of statement from the board that we are ready to go to really try and win this league or win the Champions League or win something. That needs to happen for me in the summer.
Much players Arsenal, I never really felt threatened by them. The odd chance here now, obviously Declan Rice scores a brilliant goal, but I actually thought United looked a little bit more dangerous than Arsenal.
Yeah, and you and Owen said before that they'll have to sit in. I bet you probably didn't think they'd have to sit in that deep quite as much. But is that where they're at the moment in a game like this, short-termism, to get results?
Yeah, look, I probably did expect that, Steve. Arsenal are a much better football team than Manchester United. You see the way they take the ball, the way they make angles for each other. Odegaard again was an influence on the team, but I think he needs to step up in these types of games where you might just need the one goal. You might need that bit of brilliance. We've seen.
Oh gosh, some of these questions.
That must be the hardest part of being a manager.
Probably,
after a game, dealing with all those questions.
Yeah. That's probably tough for him because you can imagine he's probably boiling up inside. His season starts ages ago in respect of what he wants to try and do, what he's trying to achieve, what he's trying to build. Still feel like, and I won't stop thinking that he's been let down by the club in respect of getting him a striker, because I don't think we're a million miles away. And then you have to do interviews like that where it can be quite frustrating.
And do you think that's the root of it, when he sees chances going begging without that player on the pitch?
Well, the thing with it is, Steve, everything what he's saying and what we're doing in respect of the ball retention we've got in the final third of the opposing team's half, everything he's saying about we're doing great stuff, we're getting it in, but we haven't got no one to finish it off. If we had someone to finish it off, these conversations don't happen. Like I said, it's like 3 years and 5 windows, and we know that we've needed a striker. So I think a club of our stature trying to win the league at this point and not having a striker to finish those chances is one of the main reasons why we won't do it again this season.
I mean, it was interesting the way he spoke about kind of the goal, because he's right. Up to that point, they were so dominant. United barely had a kick in the game. And United defended really deep. And then they realised, right, we're probably going to play long or get it up to Garnacho quite quick. And all it takes, watch this from Onana. Yeah. This is at the end of the half. All it takes is from Mazraoui to win a header. Beats Chalafori here. And then, boom. And then Garnacho's it. And you're in. One ball, one foul, and then the brilliance of Bruno. And these little things, they add up in the game. This is how you win trophies. This is how you win, is the details. That long ball, and they didn't deal with it. The header and then the free kick. And then obviously Bruno smashes into the top corner. You have to praise the quality. But Calafiori's got to win that header, and Trossard can't foul. You just can't foul there and give Bruno the opportunity to go win a game. So I think there'll be frustration with that from Mikel, because up to that point, United didn't have a kick really. And they allowed them back into the game, and then United grew into the game and actually played really well.
Like he said there, in the end, like Declan said, like Mikel said, the boss said there, I think we're quite fortunate in the end, because we kind of lost our discipline in what we're doing.
He wasn't happy with that, was he?
No, he wasn't, no, because we could have easily lost the game. Our goalkeeper saved us in this game. It's as simple as that in the end. You know, yes, we had a lot of great position in the first half. We couldn't quite capitalise. They, with very direct ball, you know, 2 touches there on the edge of the box, bam, they scored a free kick. They're in the game. And then towards it now, we're trying to go and win this game where we've let them back in it. We need to make sure that we keep it tight. And this is, again, where if you've got a striker in it, you say, OK, let's keep it tight again because we can see if we could create him another chance. And, you know, we're still going forward without that strike. Then they could have scored 2, maybe 3 goals in the second half.
And is that the belief sometimes that rubs off on the other players on the pitch? I've spoken to Liverpool players in the end of tight games say to me, listen, we know we're in the game because we've got Mo Salah up there, and Mo Salah can do that, and he's done it. Where if Arsenal had someone like that, mentally, when you're on the pitch there 15, 20 minutes...
You've got the half-chance taker, you've got the person who's going to, in the moment, take it. And this is what I'm talking about. You can pay as much as you want, but you've either got that or you haven't got it. At the moment, you're looking at players, like we mentioned earlier, Darwin Núñez or Højlund there, you know, and then we mentioned Isak. Isak's got it. Isak's got, you know, if I get half a chance in a vital moment in the game, there's a good chance he's going to take it. Mo Salah, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to take that chance. That's all Arsenal need right now, even with all the injuries. That's what they've needed. They've needed that, like I say, for 3 years now. So if you've got that player who can take that chance, Arsenal will be right amongst it.
But that gets players believing. You had that. You were in tight games, and then you looked up and you saw Rooney and Ronaldo and Tevez, and you thought, yeah, we can win this game because you've got game changers.
Oh, definitely. But you also have to give them the chance that you can kind of get that. I think Arsenal have everything. Defensively, set pieces, they've got everything. They really do. I just think, in a way... Right now, for them to be successful with the injuries that they have to play perfect. You know, they've got to slide perfect passes. It doesn't work. Sometimes you just got to get the ball in the box. Even you win the second ball, little things like that. Look at that goal for United. Came from nothing. Long ball, win the header, free kick, and you're in. And I think Arsenal need to learn that. You don't have to win games to be perfect all the time. Just give yourself a chance. You got everything else. Put the ball in the box. Don't have to be perfect. And you'll find a way to win games, literally. They get all the goals from set pieces, Steve. They tick every box. Just that one is the only one missing. And I think it's Lautaro Martinez, Osimhen, you know, Isak, whoever it's going to be. Go spend the money and go get them. Because you're right there to go win the biggest things.
Yeah. Which is, it sounds so simple, but that's what it is. We're talking about a global market, you know, and Arsenal are a global side. Millions of fans around. There's so many players. You've got to go and find this player, you know, because they're out there. Even we're talking about like the window. Look at Villa's window. Villa got exactly what they needed, and those 2 players now are making a massive contribution.
Difference makers, aren't they?
Absolutely. You have to go and do it. You have to find it. And like I say, that lies at the owner's door for me.